We open our hearts into God's holy and life-giving presence. We are one within the holy nature of our God, Creator, Sanctifier, and Redeemer. Breathing deep. God, I release all ties and definitions of the earth. We return into your holy and life-giving embrace, to that which you witnessed within us. We are one in your spirit, one within your breath. We breathe and draw upon this life-giving breath that resides within us, that is your spirit. For within each and every one of us, the manifestation of your holy design rises to come forth. We submit ourselves fully before you now to release any thoughts or words prior to this moment that we have formed. Seek and know the wisdom and clarity that you wish to be released in this call. I trust to know that you will guide us and once again establish the holy hedge of protection around each person who draws to this call, that they will hear, know, and embrace only the words that you intend for them at this point within their journey. And I'm feeling led to ask you all to really consider releasing the definitions and thoughts that you have formed upon this earth that you think define you. And to look at this from a perspective of roles. How do you see yourself defined by your roles upon the earth? I've heard some people say, first of all, prior to anything else, I am a mother. I am a father. I am my father's son, or whatever. They say, first of all, I am these things. First of all, I do this. First of all, I am a doctor. First of all, I am doing these. And in my heart, I feel something go across that they are, first of all, manifestations of God's own hand. And I would ask for each and every one of you to honestly, in the full depth of God's presence, to surrender every single thing that you think is a role in your life, whether you are a son, a daughter, a mother, a father, a employee, a business owner, a religious servant of some kind, whether you're a minister or a lay minister or something. Just please relinquish these roles. Let go of the things that define you, whether you're a sales associate, a teacher, a trainer, a guide in the wilderness, or whatever. Let go of these roles. Are you a boyfriend? Are you a girlfriend? Are you a husband? Are you a wife? Let go of these roles. And I would ask you, as you relinquish each and everything that you think defines you upon the earth, holding no earthly definition, how do you classify yourself before God? When you are freed from the limitations of the roles that have been rested upon you, can you honestly recognize that God sees you a holy, perfect manifestation of His design? Not limited to the roles you hold upon the earth. Not limited to the experiences that you've walked throughout your life. Not limited to generational expressions or defines or definitions or things that came through from the words of your father or your mother or generational past influences of a spiritual nature. These things that try to come against you of a spiritual nature, that as you continue to see yourself as defined as first your family. First, I embrace the family above all things that I've known within me. First, family first, family first. These things that you embrace above God's presence, I would ask you to relinquish these roles. Relinquish these defining statements that you think in some manner, shape, or form define you. Honestly embrace the presence of God within you without role. Imagine yourself upon a desert island You have been stripped of every single thing that defines you, including the style of dress that you choose. The personal accoutrements that you favor, the things, the accessories that you draw to you within your life, the things that define you, relinquish them. Embrace the fullness of God's presence within you. Relinquish the definitions you think holds within you that is defined by blood. Remember, blood emerged after the essence of your being, the spiritual nature of that which is God's hand upon you. It was blood that was second, formed after. Spirit perfectly defined, then the soul and blood manifested as one within the womb of your mother. Let us relinquish even that definition and return prior to it into God's loving embrace. And many of you may know where I'm going with this. If you would stop, relinquish, and submit yourself before God without definition. How does God see you on a scale of 1 to 10? Not how do you see yourself, because that's how many of the teachings upon the earth would say. What do you see? People that are spiritually awake immediately respond as a 10, because they see and know God's eyes looking upon them, and they know themselves that even though they fail within specific roles, they're still a 10 before God's eyes. And that from that perspective, they can always embrace God's presence to bring change upon the role within their lives. But what's happened within humanity is they've flipped this upside down. And they have allowed for the roles within their lives to be the defining point of who they are. And then they come upon a situation within their lives, whether it be a car accident or a motorcycle accident or a physical encounter or an emotional situation that they encounter or a loss of a relationship, and all of a sudden that role-defining nature of who they were is gone, and they lose definition. They lose direction upon the earth because they think they were defined by the nature of who they are upon the earth, and they were not able to tap the reality of that which they are defined by in God's image. So as you submit yourself before the presence of our divine Creator, Yahweh, and the very image of His presence through Yeshua, and the life-giving breath that is God's Spirit within you, Avun, I pray that each of you would be freed from the limitations that are formed by earthly roles, earthly construct, the mindset of separation, even the aspect of gender within separation. Do people not realize that both a man standing upon the earth and a woman standing upon the earth contain both the feminine and the masculine? We see people that fight to protect the feminine. We see people that fight to protect the masculine, that we don't even realize that the masculine fighting for the masculine needs to recognize the feminine within them, to be more compassionate, understanding, clarity, and wisdom. That the women in protection of the feminine also need to be balanced within the masculine. If they would seek the presence of God in the nature of their place, their action before God, they would know that even if they've been taught that they are to be subservient, they would recognize when their partner is not in alignment with God, and they would be able to see and bring loving counsel to the situation. But if we place our role first, we separate ourselves from that wisdom. So again, I come back to the original request. Please relinquish what you have embraced as a role. Have you ever known yourself as a doctor? What if your image as a doctor or your title as a role as a doctor was just completely stripped from you? How are you defined? Are you defined by the nature of God's presence as a holy manifestation of His design? Or are you continue to be formed by the nature of the roles that you have known and held by definitions of man? We see people that consider themselves to be phenomenal. I mean, even the simple practitioner of driving a vehicle. phenomenal drivers, and then something happens within their lives, and they no longer have the same visual acuity or the ability to see at night, but they push themselves beyond that role because they are losing a sense of identity, because they are again identified by the nature of their role, not identified by the nature of their God. So can we be released from the individual roles we have perceived ourselves to be and become the identity that is God's presence? Can we trust God enough not to embrace the identity that we form? But as I was speaking earlier on a prayer call with a friend, the importance of understanding that even if God desires of me the very personality that he is allowed to form within my being, can I honestly relinquish that to God so that God would determine the appropriate time for the nature of his design to manifest through my being? So that even if I have flaws within my character or flaws within my personality, that God would refine those for the sake of blessing others and making his glory known. I relinquish these roles. And again, one of the most important ones to look upon God with, and I've shared this with you before, is to relinquish our blood ties. Because I see so many people upon this earth, they fight for family. This is a family, this is a family, family first, family first, family first. Wait a minute. That's the proper language, but if you recognize that we are all family. And some people, this message would go right across them and they would shake them to their boots to realize that they have the power to relinquish even blood ties in love and in perfect forgiveness with no ties to the wrongs that have been done upon them to the family in the past, because the things that have been done were generational and spiritual in nature. So we can now look upon our family through God's eyes, not the nature of how we were wronged in the past or how individuals may be coming against us today. Because every single thing they have done or would attempt to do are spiritual in nature, and we are given the presence of God within us to bring healing, reformation, and restoration to the things we see revealed before us. But if we tie ourselves first to blood, we will never be able to see these in healing. We will never be able to see these as something that do not govern us. We will never be able to see these things as things that don't hold power over us. We will always be governed through anger or hurt or violation or frustration or hopelessness or, an inability to respond to these things, because we will be looking from within the flames of the fire, not from God's perspective upon the situation. However, if we submit ourselves, release even the blood ties that we have formed upon this earth, look to God's presence, embrace God's presence within the fullness of his love, then look upon those that are upon this earth, both those within our families and those that are within our family of God's grace. We would now see all things that they are doing from a spiritual nature, rising before us to be healed, not something rising before us to subject us to the sufferings of the past or subject us to the sufferings of this present moment. We will be equipped in such a way that we are not diminished by people coming at us personally, tearing down our roles, defining us in such a way that doesn't fit with who we are. And also, quite frankly, in most families, what I've witnessed is the families don't even know who the person has become. They continue to define them in the ways that they knew them of the past. They are veiled in the spiritual nature of that which they knew, not seeking God in the presence of his grace to understand that which they are, and possibly even that which they will become. So again, if you honestly trust our living God, our holy Redeemer, our divine Creator, I would ask that you would trust God so much that you would relinquish what you believe to be your roles upon this earth, that they would rise to a new level within God. And God will stir you more deeply within the roles you function, or God may change your focus to look in a new direction. If you see yourself as a servant to the public or a giver of some sort, do you honestly take that role, rest it before God, to seek how does God wish you to use it according to his will? Are you a volunteer, a person that provides tremendous service to others? Have you become defined in that nature? Are you willing to relinquish that title before God and seek how does God wish this to benefit his design, her holy wisdom, reveal divine glory? Are we able to trust our God to know that our loving Creator holds the perfect image for everything we walk upon this earth? And remember that even as we walk in different grounds, whether it's in a sales role or a medical role or a carpentry role or any background, house cleaner, anything that you do, waitress, waitstaff, any kind of situation, are we willing to submit ourselves before God each night and say, God, I give this wholly unto you for the outcome that fits your design? And as I just mentioned, that next morning, you may wake renewed with a deeper vigor for what you do, and God may also turn your sight in a new direction, because he knows the nature of your gifts and talents married with his gifts and powers to manifest in a new way. But if we continue to see ourselves defined in a certain role, we will never fully understand or realize the nature of how God can manifest through us, because we will always hold ourselves to the nature of how our roles are defined by others upon the earth, or the nature of our human form as seen by others. And we will always live up to that image or less, because there is a psychological effect within this as well. If a person is stripped of all of their roles, every single one of them, they are placed upon a desert island with no reference to society. And then you honestly ask them, how do you see yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? Many people cannot even perceive or conceive themselves to be a 10. Many people will come back with a response like a 7 or an 8. People that have been deeply abused or wronged throughout their whole lives would see themselves as a 2 or a 3, and that's concerning. Because what's happened is they've allowed for their role, their experience upon the earth, to diminish the nature of who they are before the sight of God. So we, in this role of servant before them, see and recognize that they are not able to touch the truth of how God sees them. We pray in thanksgiving to know that God's Spirit within them will rise and bring forth a renewed recognition of God's holy design within them. We pray freedom from the labels, titles, and aspects of humanity that have altered their perceptions as divine holy creations. We pray most earnestly to become God's holy presence standing before them, to remind them of the nature of who they are and free them from the limitations of the roles they have witnessed upon the earth. I know we've shared this prior to this. I think it was a couple months back when I was talking to the nature of the prince that came before Yeshua. What is it that I need to do to follow you? And when they describe prince, this is not like we understand, from Disney or the different descriptions of the earth. This is an individual that basically almost everything you saw within the scope of this village, within the scope of this town and city, all that surrounded it, the lands were probably under his governance. All the animals were somehow held under lien of some sort under this prince. Every title, definition that he was known as the leader over the peoples and all these things. And Yeshua said, well, it's simple. Relinquish your titles. Sell all your belongings and come with me. It's about relinquishing these things that we think define us upon the earth to become that which God sees us to be. And yes, it is a practice in trust. Because as I said, if you're willing to relinquish the very thing that you do within your life that thinks blesses you the most, are you honestly willing to rest that before God and say, God, this is yours entirely. You either magnify it for your use upon increase, or you show me the direction to go forth in a new way to evidence your glory in every breath that I receive. And to be perfectly transparent, I've had to do that within Grace Healing a number of times, where God has had us doing large events in different situations and setting up conference calls every single night and then reducing those down and letting go of things and just submitting before God and say, nope, I completely submit this unto you. I surrender all that you have given unto me, because it is by your grace that I have witnessed any of your miracles upon this earth. All that I have witnessed upon your love for the sake of those that you have brought before me. I stand in awe of the nature of your presence, but I submit them before you. And I wholly and completely submit myself. And we've heard it through different scriptural references that I'm not fully familiar with, but as you hear the different references about decrease that you might increase. Decrease me that you might increase. That simple little phrase that has almost become cliche within Christian forums. And they truly don't understand that that transcends every aspect and role of our lives. Yahweh, I thank you that you have formed within me the gift and ability to be, say, a waitress. I submit this before you now, that I would walk in gratitude within this process and serve at a higher level to reveal your glory in each person I come before at the table. But even as I submit this, I trust that you will guide me in the steps forward in any way you wish. And Yahweh, I just welcome in your daughter, our beautiful sister Ina, for any words that she wishes to share. We open unto you.
Thank you. Mayasia Sodavia Aliarabo Kolariavia Shin Motonyara. Just as Larry was sharing, it always seems to come up in the last couple of prayer Monday nights is that we must decrease so that he will increase. And I know it's something that I just say all the time, and it is that your walk in him, seeking him first, of all these things that have been spoken, and relinquishing all. And just briefly, and I know we all have a wonderful story in how God has affected us in our lives, and mine in particular, as most of you know, I've been a golf professional for over 30 years, and in that time, I've always, and just by God's grace, developed this relationship in him. Through the years, I gave it up. I would relinquish it to him, and I wanted to serve him. And I thought, oh, I've got to go out and be a minister. I got to, in that time in my life when just having children, and I loved my golf, but in it, I would find, particularly in the time we left Florida, I released it. I even felt led, I give it to you. I put it at that time, I give it to you, God. Every single time, God brought it back to me. Every time. And it's a part of who I am, and I think I've shared this, is golf doesn't mean golf, it's God of love forever. And part of ministry, to me, it wasn't about golf. It was just building relationships. And through that, he showed me in each step of my career, because I put him first, Upwoon would show me things that most golf pros could not figure out for teaching. I could have all kinds of people in front of me, and I'd seek him first, developing relationships, figuring out what they're doing wrong. Well, it wasn't me. It's just Holy Spirit, Upwoon, revealing to them. And it was like a parallel. It was just amazing. And God said, you will learn golf through me. And it's been that way from today. It is just amazing. So these words that he speaks, and then the careers that God has put you in, and the things that's what you are, as you seek and you give that to him, developing that relationship. Where you are is a platform to reach those that are in need. And even in yourself, as you come closer into him, seeking him first, building that relationship, when you go out, stepping out into the earth, extending that love, just as you are, you will be amazed. And I can say from example that God is amazing. It is amazing the people he's brought into my life. And now, with Grace Healing, I even set golf aside. Again, he brought it back. It's the darndest thing. But it is amazing, even in the ground that I'm new ground to being walked with Grace Healing with golf. It's supposed to be together. God is amazing. He knows exactly your gifts and talents and those things that you're called to reach out to others and to bless you. So I just wanted to extend that and reaffirm, confirm, along with precious brother and the words that he's speaking, is truth. And may you each have a wonderful, awesome evening and continue to walk in God's grace, his love, and all that he has for you.
And that is so important, because he speaks to the nature of the love that is God's presence within, and we have to recognize in absolute trust that as we relinquish even the simple titles we have come to know or roles we've come to know upon this earth, if we can honestly trust, just like Ina says, even the places you work in and function in, even those things will magnify and increase upon you. You will find new wisdom in the places that you are, or God will take the tool set that he's formed within you and direct you down a new path, and you will shine a new light within that region that you go to, and it will be a blessed and holy revelation of God's presence as you enter into this new ground.
Yeah.
So it's not about keeping one sequestered to a certain type or role throughout their lives. It's opening you up to the fullness of God's grace and glory in every breath that you receive, because we want to do one thing: reveal God's glory, and that contains God's love within it and the manifestation of his design through you. And you should covet after the nature of God's gifts, as one of our brothers said to me earlier. Just the covet after the nature of God's design, God's gifts, God's will, God's holy, perfect unction upon humanity to remember and know God's presence within.
Yes.
And we just offer thanksgiving, and I know that Ina and I are both in full agreement, because we engage in prayer every single day. And well, sometimes life gets busy and we can't, but we're still engaged in prayer every day with our hearts rested upon you and all people that we have been called to serve in the past within Grace Healing, all we are presently serving, and all that God has established to be served in the future within Grace Healing. We trust and know that God's Spirit precedes us within it all, and we relinquish ourselves completely unto God, so that his design of blessing, her perfect wisdom, would fall upon you to bring holy reckoning of his Spirit within you and his divine will for your life. We love you dearly.
Very much.
So we would just close in prayer. Avun solo oton yere kaya nani guiseo shumuru kunduru sasifiara. Havlan akian yurokoya sumyo hum. Oliandere komye sueti yulyo mus. Habla tundere kolye manture koye ne yusam. Vognere kolye si. I pray that each of you would find freedom from the definitions you've known upon the earth. Find freedom to know how God sees you in this moment and the manifestation of his will through each and every step you take forward, including in the rest, as his Spirit greets you in your time of rest tonight to bring holy restoration, perfect renewal, and divine grace upon your breath as you rise tomorrow morning to reveal his glory in everything you do. We love you dearly and praise you in the holy name that is our God. Yahweh, Yeshua, Habun Solokondrie, Elohim. Amen.
Amen.
Awesome. Have a wonderful night, everybody, and an amazing week, and we will have this up as soon as I can get it over to Andy. Take care and be blessed.
Yeah.